Today I would like to show you the progress I've been making at the Pocatello staging yard on my N-scale layout. That's coming right up. Hi, I'm Roy Smith. A month ago I showed you the bench work I was building for the staging yard at Pocatello, Idaho on my layout. I have made some progress on this area of my layout since then, and I would like to show you what I've done. In a moment I'm going to show you what the bench work and track work for the staging yard look like now. I'm also going to show you that I've installed a Digitrax AROne to reverse the track polarity in the Y at Granger Junction, which leads to the Pocatello subdivision. Even though it's a staging yard, I hope to capture the feel of the prototype. Pocatello, Idaho is located some 230 miles northwest of Green River, Wyoming, and of course Green River is the main classification yard on my layout. I call it a staging yard because I don't plan to do any industrial switching or classification operations in it. Trains that are staged here will run to Evanston, Wyoming and points west, and to Green River and points east, adding to the flow of traffic on my layout. Okay, let's talk about bench work. I want to show you the lift-out bridge that I constructed for the closet. The closet door is the main reason why it took me so long to start working on this section of the layout. I didn't want to block the door because we store all kinds of stuff in the closet. I'm very happy with the lift-out bridge. As you can see, it is easy to remove and replace. The masonite backdrop is permanently attached to the closet door. The layout looked like this before and after I installed the masonite backdrop. To me, a backdrop is very important on my layout. And this is what the bench work looks like now that I've painted it and relayed the track. I applied a base coat of white paint on the backdrop and will be painting it sky blue later on. I painted the plywood sub-roadbed a desert color. This section of the layout is 9 feet long from end to end and 8 inches wide. That gives me enough width for at least 4 staging tracks, as you can see. Each of the staging tracks can hold trains of 18 cars headed up by 2 diesels. That's the average length of trains on my layout. The benchwork is supported by very strong L brackets, not by legs. I was able to use L brackets instead of legs because this section of the layout is just a shelf. Now let's talk about track work. As you can see, I used a compound ladder for my yard throat. This allows the yard tracks to be longer than if I had used a simple straight ladder. But one of the biggest questions I had to answer was what to do about a crossover between the 2 tracks in this area just before the yard throat. I had several options. Option 1 was to install no crossover. 2 tracks in the staging yard would hold trains headed for Evanston and 2 tracks for trains heading to Green River. This would have been the simplest solution in terms of wiring, and it would have also been the least expensive. Since it had no crossovers, I would not have needed to buy any of those expensive turnouts. Option 2 was to install a cathode double crossover, as you see here. It fit the space quite nicely, but double crossovers aren't very prototypical looking, except in passenger station yards. Option 3 was to install 2 cathode number 6 turnouts like this, but this option created a nasty S-curve. So in option 4, I simply separated the 2 turnouts with a short section of straight track. This eliminated the S-curve. I chose this option. It allows me to run trains to any of the 4 staging tracks, and it looks more prototypical than a double crossover. Of course, it created a Y in the track, and in a moment I'm going to show you what I did about that. Another important decision I had to make was how to cross the cuts in the lift-out section. AZ Mike suggested that I use Cato expansion tracks, and that's what I decided to do. They seem to work very nicely. Next, let's talk about wiring. In a moment, I will show you why I had to install a Digitrax AROne at the Y representing Granger Junction in Wyoming. But first, let me mention that I haven't really done any wiring for Pocatello staging other than the AROne so far. Even though I still haven't wired the yard, track power already reaches the yard tracks from the existing part of the layout. I guess that shows how reliable Cato Unitrack is. Of course, I do have to wire the staging yard tracks, and in a future video, I'll show you how I do that. Now, what about that AROne automatic reverser? As I said, I had to install one, and I had to do it right away because the layout kept shorting out until I did it. The crossover turnouts created a Y in the track plan. The instructions that come with the AROne are sketchy. They show a diagram for wiring a reverse loop, but not for wiring a Y. So I went to the internet, as I normally do when I have a question or a problem, and found a diagram showing me where to install the insulating rail joiners and where to connect the wiring for the AROne to the track. Obviously, I would be putting the AROne and its wiring under the layout. As you can see, the Y allows me to reverse the direction of this diesel, but more importantly, it allows me to run trains into any of the 4 staging yard tracks without causing a short. So now I've had a chance to show you what I've done so far. But the Pocatello staging yard is far from finished. After I paint the backdrop sky blue, I will install a photo backdrop representing the Pocatello area. I will paint and ballast the track because Cato Unitrack looks shiny and toy-like until you paint it, just like any track does. I will have to wire all of the tracks in the yard. I will show you how I do this in a future video. I may lengthen the yard with a drop-down section here. Such a drop-down section would allow me to double end the yard with turnouts. Right now, diesels are trapped once they enter the staging yard tracks. But if I double end the yard, my diesels will be able to run around to the other end of the train. The room door here is a problem, but I should be able to handle that with a drop-down bridge. Another option would be to install a diesel storage track over here at the throat of the yard. Diesels waiting here could couple up to the end of arriving trains for the return run, and after those trains depart, diesels that were trapped in the staging tracks could be free to move into the diesel storage track. I also want to get started on the scenery over here at Echo Canyon. Many of you have been asking me, when am I going to get started on this? On the prototype, Pocatello and Echo Canyon are separated by hundreds of miles, but here on my layout they are separated only by 3 feet. I hope Echo Canyon will look something like this when it's done. Well, that's what I've been doing on my layout, the bench work, track work, and wiring at the Pocatello staging yard. I invite you to give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and if you are here for the first time, be sure to subscribe and click that bell icon so you don't miss any upcoming episodes on this channel. I've got tons of ideas for more videos, and I try to upload a new one every Saturday morning. I'd like to thank you for watching. Until next time, happy railroading. I will see you again very soon.